Markets end somewhat 2078 on a positive note after a volatile session. The Nifty is down over 1% since last Diwali, but it's outperformed most of its peers. The mid-cap index has also lost just over 1%, but the small-cap index has lost over 12%. Reliance Industries is likely to report a 5% revenue growth in Q2 as per a CNBC-TV18 poll. Profits and margins likely to decline due to a weakness in refining, petchem and oils to chemicals businesses, but the performance of Jio and retail likely to remain strong. Hindustan Unilever is expected to report a tepid second quarter. Volume growth is likely to be impacted by inflation and lack of rural demand. Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are leading the race to become the next Prime Minister of the UK. A new poll shows support for the Conservatives among British public is down to 14%, which is the lowest in polling history. Ukraine's President Zelensky warns that Russia is planning to attack a hydroelectric dam in Kherson, which could cause serious flooding in the region. The US claims Iran is directly engaged in the war by providing drones and technical support to Russian pilots to bomb civilian targets. As he attempts to gather funds for a $44 billion acquisition of Twitter, Elon Musk has told prospective investors he plans to cut 75% of Twitter's workforce, according to the Washington Post. But Twitter's management circulates an internal memo among employees saying there are no plans for any company-wide layoffs. Well, let's start with the market action. It's been a positive close to somewhat 2078. Sensex and the Nifty ending in the green after a volatile session. It's also been a solid week for the stock markets, with the Sensex and the Nifty gaining over 2%, which is the biggest weekly rally that we've seen in the last 3 months. For the year, the Nifty is down 1%, mid-cap index is down over 1%, but the small-cap index has lost over 12%. Nigel is standing by with the market report card from last Diwali to date. Nigel.
You know, a lot of things got thrown at us, whether it was COVID, the post-COVID impact as well, particularly in China, whether it was the hawkish Fed, the Reserve Bank of India as well was hiking rates. The Russia-Ukraine war, that's what put pressure on inflation. Globally, you saw inflation prices that spiked up, crude oil prices up by close to around 20%, all this in the, in the last year or so. And high inflation scenario, still, in fact, the Nifty managed to hold on. Well, supply-side issues as well was another worry. And the FIs, as we were just discussing, well, they sold close to around $30 billion, and yet the Nifty didn't fall apart. That's telling you the kind of participation we had from the retail audience as well out here. And in the currency market, well, there was a relative outperformance out there because the rupee depreciated, yes, by around 10%, but the dollar index itself moved from around 95 all the way to around 114 or so. And if you compare India with the rest of the globe, the US markets were under pressure, the European markets as well were under pressure. They were down anything between 5 to around 20%. And even some of those, other Asian markets, they saw a lot of pressure, barring, the Latin market. The Brazilian index was a relative outperformer, and the Nifty as well was a close second, with being more or less flattish in the last 1 year or so. Within India, FMCG did very well, auto sector as well did very well, in the last 1 year. And the PSU banking names, they were something that did pretty well. IT did see some pressure points, and the small cap index as well was down. Let's run you through some of those big movers then on the Nifty itself. New entrant, you had, a couple of those names in there. But first, the losers. Some of those stocks from the IT pack, well, they were under pressure. You had Divi's Laboratory as well that was under pressure. And in fact, the commodity-related names, whether it was a BPCL in there, Tata Steel, Ultratech, all of them did see some selling. And HDFC Life, a distinct underperformer out there. But some big gainers, Adani Enterprises, well, it's made its way into the Nifty, and that's given you big returns. And just take a look at the screen. Some of those rare entities, Coal India, Power Grid, as well as NTPC, PSUs in there, that were relative outperformers. I don't remember the last time that happened. The Royal Enfield as well from the Auto Pack did pretty well. But there were some losers, and they are all up for you on the screen. Some of them seem to have lost their way. Godrej Properties, you had India Bulls Housing Finance, IEX, India Mart, some of these stocks, well, they ran away for a goodish bit, and then they came in for some profit taking. But let's wind this down with some of those big gainers. HAL out of nowhere, the defense play, TVS Motors as well continues to run ahead, and a couple of those PSU banking names in there as well, up and about in the last 1 year or so. But guys, it's still a happy Diwali, because despite all the challenges that we had, the Nifty was still more or less flattish. Back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Nigel. Happy Diwali to you. On to the currency market action. After 2 days of a sharp decline, the rupee held its ground, ending flat against its strengthening dollar. Reports suggest that the RBI stepped in once again to limit the losses. $1 US continues to cost nearly 83 rupees. That is the dollar rupee for you. In big earnings expected today, Reliance Industries is expected to report a 5% revenue growth this quarter. That's as per a CNBC-TV18 poll. The company's profits and margins are likely to decline due to a weakness in refining, petchem and the oils to chemicals business. However, our poll shows that the geo and retail business will remain strong. Not just Reliance, FMCG giant Hindustan Unilever is also set to release its Q2 earnings in a few minutes from now. A CNBC-TV18 poll expects the company to report a 16% revenue growth and an 11% jump in net profit. However, margins are expected to contract to 23%. Domestic volume growth is likely to remain tepid due to inflation and weak rural demand. From one FMCG company to another, ITC second quarter numbers came in last night, were above street estimates with revenue growth in double digits across all segments. The hotels and cigarette business led. The company's standalone profit was up nearly 21% year-on-year, while EBITDA was up nearly 40% compared with the previous year. And the big global story, UK, which is grappling with an economic crisis, is now in the midst of a leadership crisis as well. This after Prime Minister Liz Truss bowed out of office after a tumultuous 45-day term. Boris Johnson, whose resignation earlier this year had catapulted Truss to the UK Prime Minister's post for the shortest term ever, is leading the leadership race as per reports. Rishi Sunak, who lost out to Truss in the Tory leadership battle, is also in the reckoning. Candidates who wish to run for the next Prime Minister will have to garner the support of 100 MPs by 2 p.m. on Monday. A poll shows that support for the Conservative Party among the British public is down to 14%, which is the lowest in polling history. So what is it that's led to the downfall of Truss? CNBC's Arabelle Gummed reports.
Early on in September, later on that month, she put forward that mini budget speech, of course, which was delivered by Kwasi Kwarteng. A few weeks later, though, a few more negative permutations came through, with Kwasi Kwarteng having to reverse some of the measures put forward in that mini budget. The minister then having to resign as well, or being asked to step down, with Jeremy Hunt then taking over as the new Chancellor of the Exchequer. Then just a few weeks later, we saw Suella Braverman, of course, step down then as Home Office Secretary as well. That came after a little bit of infighting within the party, but also having put forward the irregularity, the breach of technical regulations that Suella Braverman had put forward, which was then the sending of official documentation through her personal email. So that affected things, and also just the sense of credibility that Liz Truss still maintained within the party all seemed to go away then, particularly over the last number of days, having just said 2 days ago that she was a quitter, that she was a fighter and not a quitter. Fortunately, she stood outside 10 Downing yesterday at around 1:30 p.m. and quit.
Arabelle, many thanks for joining us. So what is next in the race for UK's prime ministerial race? Our colleague Sanjay Suri reports on the key contenders, and those include Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak. Sanjay.
Rishi Sunak would appear to have some clear advantages if he were to enter this race, as he is widely expected to. The bookies already have him as the favourite, and by far, though that is at the moment, and these things can change, but a great deal will depend upon who the others are, and particularly whether Boris Johnson is in the race. The rules for this race have now been clarified. An MP will need 100 nominations at the least to be able to contest. So given there are 357 Conservative MPs, theoretically 3 can enter the race, and theoretically this could be a three-way contest, though it may not come to that. But the magic figure really to cross is 100, and going by past records, Rishi Sunak certainly did cross it. He was in the lead last time. He had 137 votes. Behind him, Liz Truss with 113, but she had much of the vote that was for Boris Johnson. It was transferred to her as some sort of reward for loyalty to him, and not far behind Penny Mordaunt with 105. So she too crossed that 100 hurdle, and that is one reason perhaps that the 100 mark has been set, certainly to speed things up. It's not like last time when it went on and on for almost 2 months. This time we will have a result, we are told, by Friday, though it could come even earlier than that. The critical question really here is Boris Johnson, and already we have reports that expressions of support for him have been mounting and climbing the moment this contest was announced. So clearly there is a considerable groundswell of support for Boris Johnson among the members of parliament. No doubt Boris Johnson will want to be assured of that 100 mark before he contests, but really he would want to be assured of more than that. Were it to come to a three-way contest, though it may not come to that, he would want not to be in third place. And if he were to be in the first two and the runoff were to then come with the Conservative Party members voting, certainly he would win. The support for him within the party and among members is overwhelming. So it does appear that if Boris Johnson were to contest, he
well,
will.
Sanjay Suri there reporting on the possible contenders for the next Prime Minister of the UK. Ukrainian President Zelensky has accused Russia of planning to destroy a hydroelectric dam in eastern Kherson as the ongoing war nears the 8-month mark. The Kremlin-installed authorities in Ukraine's occupied southern Kherson said that the Ukrainian armed forces shelled a bridge over the Dnipro River, killing 4 people. The US claims that Iran is directly engaged in the war by providing drones and technical support to Russian pilots to bomb civilian targets. We will head into a break, but we are awaiting earnings from HUL. Expected any moment now. We are back with that and more after this break.